If I wanted to get to 10% body fat or even below all over again, here's exactly what I would do step by step. So my name's Adam Bono. I'm an online fat loss professional. I've helped 100 men in just the last 6 months alone break fat loss plateaus by eating more food and doing less cardio using a form of metabolism manipulation called metabolic priming. I have personally myself competed in multiple bodybuilding shows and been to very, very lean body fat percentages. And if I had to start all over again at 22% body fat, here's exactly what I would do step by step. So first of all, if I was at 22% body fat, the first thing I would do when I'm trying to get to 10% body fat would be to get a coach. Why? It's because two separate reasons. One, getting to 10% body fat isn't easy. You want a certain set of accountability and you want a certain set of drive and motivation to keep going, right? And so once you invest in a coach, coach that's going to help you get to 10% body fat, you're more likely one to, one, stick to the plan, and two, you're more likely one to do the hard stuff, right? So first of all, it's not easy getting to 10% body fat, and it's even harder getting to 7% body fat. Because as you get leaner, your body continues to fight back against you wanting to get leaner. So 15 to 10% is a whole different ball game than going from even 10 to 9. Because the lower you get, the harder it gets. So you want that certain accountability. But second reason you want to get a coach is because you want a second set of eyes. So as human beings, we're flawed by one perspective only. Being able to see what we look like in the mirror, be able to see what we look like on the scale every single day, and you need a certain set of eyes and a different perspective to kind of see what you're going through and kind of negotiate your plan based upon where you're at. For instance, we've all been in the position where we step on the weight scale and we look at ourselves in the mirror and then we think that, maybe that we are up a little bit of pounds and maybe we should eat a little bit less, right? And then we start the mental fight with each other, with ourselves, and then we end up going in a kind of a yo-yo and never really sticking to a correct plan. So you want a certain set of accountability and a certain coach in place to say, hey, you're fine, you're losing weight, you're looking good, you're getting leaner. Because it's not all about, first of all, getting low in weight, right? You want to maintain muscle tissue, and there's tons of my clients who don't lose or gain much weight, but they have a complete body recomposition because we gain muscle tissue and lose body fat, and they both have mass. Like 1 pound is 1 pound, whether it's body fat or muscle tissue. So it's not always about the weight on the scale, first of all. And I've been in that position before when I was at 22% body fat 7 years ago. And I remember fighting with myself very mentally about maybe I should eat a little bit more. I look a little bit skinny today. You want to have a certain accountability partner. You want to have a certain set of eyes for a different set of perspective. So going into it, the first thing I would do before I did anything is I would take 3 to 4 days to currently track where my macronutrients are at, track where my exact calories would be at. What I mean by that is that, I would start tracking my calories and take the total of those 3 to 4 days calorie-wise so I can get an estimate on exactly where I'm at on my daily calorie goal, right? So let's say, for instance, for the sake of time, I tracked 3 to 4 days of my calories, and I added all those days up, divided by how many days I tracked, and then I came up with a 3,000 as my average caloric intake. For my clients, we call this the maintenance assessment week, right? So now that I have a goal of calories, the first thing I would do is want to get correct macronutrients in place. I want to get a correct protein goal, and I want to get a correct fat goal. I want to get a protein goal in so I can build muscle tissue, have a higher thermic effect of food, but also a correct fat goal to make sure my digestion's optimized, my hormones are optimized, and then to make sure that I'm getting good fats in the form of lowering LDL cholesterol and raising HDL cholesterol, which is the human growth hormone factor. And then I would take the protein and the fats, and I would backfill the rest with carbohydrates to meet 3,000, right? So now I have a correct goal of macronutrients in place of what I'm currently eating calorically wise. So I would stay there for a week and see how my body responded, right? So in a lot of cases, you'll get a great body recomposition by just taking your overall calories and getting correct macronutrients in place. So the first thing I would do next is I would start raising my calories. I wouldn't start lowering them. I would implement 10,000 steps a day to optimize digestion, to increase burning calories, but also to make sure my body is not getting a ton of fatigue by overdoing cardio right off the bat. And then I would start raising my calories very slowly each week. And what I'd be raising particularly would be carbohydrates, right? So I'd be raising carbohydrates each week. I would have a goal of 10K steps, a gallon of water, men's multivitamin fish oil, maybe even a vitamin D3 to mitigate any type of like inflammation, make sure I'm getting 8 hours of sleep properly. And those would be kind of like my daily goals that I would kind of run with, right? So over the course of time, I'm doing 10K steps. I don't want to do any high intensity cardio because we want to save that when I'm trying to get lean, right? We want my body to adjust to eating more food. So slowly over the course of time, I would raise my carbohydrates, hopefully getting it up to 35, maybe even 4,000 calories, right? So now that I have, 4,000 calories under my belt, the first thing I would do is now I would start cutting body fat percentage, right? I would start cutting back. So this right here, going from 3,000 to 4,000 calories, doing 10K steps, and eating more food is what we call the metabolic priming process with a lot of my clients. So once we get to a certain capping amount, you can usually tell within your body when you start to gain a little bit of water retention, and you no longer start to, progress downwards on the scale or stay the same on the scale. But now we have leverage, right? So you want to keep into mind that first we want to be training 5 days a week with 2 days of rest, right? 5 days a week with 2 days of rest is scientifically the most proven process to gain lean muscle tissue at a consistent rate, and also to make sure that we're getting good enough rest with 2 days, right? Because you got to understand that rest is super important when you're trying to increase muscle tissue and when you are trying to increase your metabolism as well. And we want to mitigate any type of cortisol, any type of inflammation, adrenal fatigue. And so we're working out 5 days a week with strength training, right? And what we're trying to do is build muscle tissue. We're trying to build the frame, build the structure for the cut. So now we've worked away our calories up from 3,000 to 4,000 calories, gaining lean muscle tissue in the process, training 5 days a week, doing 10K steps, drinking a gallon of water a day, sleeping 8 hours, taking well-rounded, vitamins and minerals for our overall health and longevity. And now we start cutting calories, right? And so when we do this, we call it that kind of, with my clients, I call it the flip over, right? We start to flip you over. We start to drop calories, right? We start to drop carbohydrates more particularly, and then we start to add cardio. So you're still doing your 10K steps, but you want to drop 400 calories, 3 to 400 calories, and maybe add 3 to 4 days of cardio. You don't want to straight out go 5-6 days of cardio. You want to start off with 3 to 4 days at 25 to 30 minutes and drop the calories slightly and see how your body reacts. In a lot of cases, some of my clients, their weight spikes just a little bit just because introduction of a new form of cardio, new inflammatory response, but we have to get over that hump, right? So we watch our weight for a week after we've done this. We've kind of flipped you over. And then we kind of look and we see what we can change next, right? So we got 10K steps, 400 calories down, and now we're doing let's just say 4 days of cardio at 25 minutes, right? So the next thing we do is we start to, once our weight stopped slowing down, because we're looking for 0.5 to 1.5 pounds per week of weight loss. Any more than that, you're dipping into muscle tissue. You don't want to lose muscle tissue because muscle tissue is highly metabolic. And it is quite literally scientifically worse to lose muscle tissue than it is to lose body fat. So you want to make sure that, one, you're keeping good muscle tissue, and that's going to be, one, strength training 5 days a week, getting your 2 days rest, but also making sure that you are getting the correct nutrients in as well and not cutting your calories too fast. So now we start to increase cardio ever so slightly. Maybe we do 2,000 more steps. Now we're at 12K steps a day, 4 days of cardio. Wait till our weight stops and it's kind of streamlines out. Then maybe we add a little bit more high intensity cardio. We do 25 minutes to 35 minutes of cardio at 4 days a week, right? And we wait till our weight to stop. When our weight stops, we reduce a little bit of calories in the form of carbohydrates and kind of wait till our weight drops. And then we go back and we add a little bit more cardio. Now we're doing 5 days a week at maybe 35 minutes. And we're doing 12K steps and we're dropping calories. We wait till our weight stops. And we repeat the same process, just chipping away, making sure that our body's losing body weight at 0.5 to 1.5 pounds per week. And we're taking each iteration as slow as possible, and we're getting as much fat loss out of each iteration as humanly possible. So let's say that Time goes on. Now we're doing an hour of cardio, and our weight's kind of stopped. And we want to try to refeed, obviously, every 3 to 4 weeks, which we spark the carbohydrates a little bit, give your body replenish when you start to get low in calories. But let's say now that we're close to 2,000 calories from 4,000 calories, we're doing an hour of cardio, we're doing 15,000 steps, and our weight's kind of starting to plateau a little bit. So one thing we could do is give a really good refeed where we take a whole week off, right? We reduce cardio to maybe 30 minutes of 5 days a week, and then we raise carbohydrates maybe 50 to 75 grams over the course of a week. And we call it the diet break. And over that course of time, we get we refuel the body, we refuel the brain, and then we restructure and we reorganize, we push a little bit further. So now we get back after the diet break, and maybe we push an hour 30 of cardio or 17K steps, or we just really start to push. But let's say, for instance, now we did it. Beautiful. We got the 10% body fat, we're looking shredded, we're looking great. Now what? This is the part where everyone goes wrong. Now we have to use metabolic priming again to get your body weight and to get your calories up to a sustainable amount. And how we do that is we do the same thing we did when we started at 3,000 calories. Start to add a little bit of add a little bit of food, start to lower a little bit of cardio, and simultaneously we do that each week till we get your calories up to a sustainable amount without gaining body fat back. So this is called the reverse diet, or the metabolic priming phase is what I like to call it, because it's metabolic priming opposed to a reverse diet. It's a little bit more structured and a little bit more organized when you're hyper-focused and hyper-targeting on certain hormones within your thyroid. But now let's say that you get from 2,000 calories, peak cut 10%, and now you get up to 2,600 calories. Maybe you're 11% body fat. Maybe you gained a little bit back, but you're still lean. You're down 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds. But now you're eating 2,600 calories. You're doing maybe 20 minutes of cardio 4 days a week, just for overall health purposes. But now you're back to a sustainable amount of calories. And now you're back to a sustainable amount of cardio to do per week. Still strength training, but now you've lost the body fat. You've used metabolic priming to get your food back up. And now your body is no longer susceptible to food at a low amount of calories. That's where most people go wrong, and that's why people in America don't have a weight loss problem. They have a weight regain problem. And that's the process people don't understand. And the thing about this entire process, right? So my program is 6 months long. The most important thing about my program, the most beneficial thing about my program, is what my program will do is it will teach you the traits of sustainability. It'll teach you the patterns to be able to sustain it off. For instance, like doing your 10K steps a day, tracking macronutrients. Over time becomes second nature. It's like brushing your teeth, something you don't even think about. And so that's the thing where people go wrong with these really harsh diets right off the bat, that it doesn't teach them the actual traits of consistency. It doesn't teach them the healthy patterns that are able to sustain it for the rest of your life. And that's where most people go wrong, is not understanding the actual education of the sustainability. But what I do for my clients is once they understand macronutrients, how to track macros, once they understand their routine and their pattern aligned with their workday and their training and their tracking food, and then once they understand exactly what their body needs macronutrient-wise, protein, carbs, and fats, that's when they keep it off for good, because they can do it themselves. And that's where most people go wrong, because with these very harsh upfront diets, anybody out there right now who's listening to this who's stuck under 2,000 calories, any simple-minded idiot can starve yourself and lose body fat. But there's a reason why most people gain it back, and it's because they don't understand the process, and they don't ever go through the hard stuff once, which is going through something and going through the whole process one time to understand how your body works and to understand the pattern and repeat process of what it looks like to make the sustainable lifestyle change. And most people never make the identity or lifestyle change doing harsh upfront diets, keto and carnivore, and never understanding how to be flexible, how to go out to eat with friends, how to go out on vacation. And that's where most people go wrong, is the adherence and the longevity perspective to what certain circumstances that arise that you can mitigate and make a plan for because you've done it before. And that's the difference between the guys in my program who lose 100 pounds, 50, 60, 70. We have 3 guys right now down 100 pounds, right? In just the last 6 months, keep in mind. But the reason why is because they understand consistency and they understand how to sustain it and keep making progress. And this repeatable process, this metabolic priming into a cutting phase, back into metabolic priming, it's a repeatable, predictable process I've used with dozens of my clients. You go through all the testimonials, you go through all the transformations, you go through all the case studies. It's a process that works over and over and over again, allowing people to eat more food and stay leaner for longer, right? So, you can, like I said, you can try it yourself, and you can try the upfront diets where you just starve yourself once again after the last 5 to 10 years and never stuck for you. Or you can invest in yourself, do the hard things once, understand it fully, and never have an issue with it again. There will be an application below if that sounds like you and you're someone that wants just the one-time help and the one-time problem solve. So thank you for watching today's video. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.